How are you doing? First of all, just a generic, how is John Rich doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
And, had the old guitar out a little bit today, which is an important thing for a musician to do when they don't get to play music anymore. And got that out and picked a little bit and grinned a little bit and called a few of my buddies. And my kids just got home from school not long ago. They're running around the house having a Nerf gun war. So, and it just snowed a little bit. So it's an interesting afternoon. I like it.
All right. I bribed my kids. I told them if they were quiet during this interview, I'd take them to Dollar Tree and buy them a toy tomorrow.
Hey.
Not winning Parent of the Year here. Anyway, let's start with Redneck Riviera, your downtown bar. How is that going right now?
So Redneck Riviera downtown, 3rd and Broadway, right in the middle, man, right on the strip. I would say that's probably the roughest year any bar could possibly have, not just mine, but any of the places down there. You talk about Nashville in the past 12 months. We started off the beginning of 2020 with a tornado that ripped everything up. And then COVID came in, which shut us down. And then one by one, more things kept happening. You couldn't fly, you couldn't stay in hotels. People that really wanted to come to Nashville couldn't. And then here about a month ago, we had a, by God, terrorist attack downtown in Nashville. So, I mean, like 1 block from my front door. So even through all that, one way or the other, we still have country music fans making their way to Nashville and coming in that place to hear live music. Now, it's nothing like it was in 19, or leading up to this last year, but they're still coming and they still love the music. And God bless our bands, our local bands that, people move to Nashville from all over the U.S. and they want to make it big in music, and a lot of them start out down there on Broadway, and they're playing for tips. They're playing for whatever they can get their hands on because that's part of the process to getting to a big place. They've been shut out because there's nobody to play to a lot of the times. And a lot of those bands, they've moved back home, wherever they're from. They're back in Nebraska. They're back in Colorado, wherever they came from. So it's definitely taken a toll on the town, but our attitude remains the same, and that is that we believe live music and Music City is still the place to be. And if you want to get here bad enough, you can still get here. We're hoping it opens up soon, though.
I thought you were a really politely outspoken advocate for keeping it open.
Yeah, well, we've got politics involved a little bit in this town, like every town does. And there was some decisions made to shut down businesses because it was spreading coronavirus is what we were told. But later on, you find out actually most of it was not happening downtown. But that being said, there was a lot of arm wrestling matches going on. Even though I didn't agree with the mayor of Nashville, and I still don't, I'm not a fan of his, he's the boss of the town. He got elected, and he put out his rules, and he put out his mandates, and we followed them to a T. Matter of fact, I'll be going down there in a couple of nights to get up and sing, and hey, I'll be following the rules when I walk in too, because he's our mayor. Mm-hmm. But I do believe that some of the measures that were taken, as you've seen around the United States, were not fairly applicated. Some businesses were still allowed to stay open and do things. It just so happens they were some of the big name businesses, and a lot of the mom and pop or small businesses were treated with much more of a restraint. Mm-hmm. What kind of business they were allowed to do. So a lot of that went on. That also played into the difficulties of 2020. But at the end of the day, music lives on. Music doesn't stop. And that's the great thing about it. You cannot box in music. People still want to hear it. People still want to make it. People still want to have that back and forth. And that is the essence of Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay, so Redneck Riviera also has the whiskey, which we're going to talk about, and this new barbecue sauce, dude. I mean, first of all, what are you not going to do, John? I mean,
Well, I think people look at Redneck Riviera and they go, well, John's out there just shotgunning ideas all over the place, right? That's really not how this is happening. What's happening is, I will do something with Redneck Riviera. Let's say it's the whiskey. And after a couple, 2 or 3 years of that whiskey, and you look up and you're in 47 states, 11,000 plus stores and growing, and And all of a sudden, other people start calling me and they say, hey, what about this? What about that? You know, they've all got things that they think that brand, that my brand would really match up with well. And most of the time I say, yeah, that's a good idea, but I'm not really ready to do that. But this barbecue sauce idea, it came from a company called Red Gold. So if you ever go to the grocery store and you go to the tomato aisle and you see the Red Gold tomatoes, yeah, you've seen them. That company. So it just so happened that they saw me on television talking about Redneck Riviera whiskey and how we support Folds of Honor with every purchase, which if you don't know what that is, they put kids through college who lost a parent in combat. I mean, it's a pretty incredible organization. Yeah. And the whiskey has now funded over 100 college grants in the past 2 years for kids who lost a parent in combat. So Red Gold saw me talking about that, and out of nowhere, they call us. They hit me up. They said, hey, we're Red Gold. What do you know about us? I said, all I know is I buy your tomatoes when I go to the grocery store to make chili. I don't know anything really past that. They said, well, we'd like to tell you who we are because we also are new supporters of Folds of Honor with our products. And they said, listen, we're based in Indiana. We're a fourth generation American family business, and we source all of our ingredients all the way down to the plastic bottle in the United States of America. What if we did a barbecue sauce together? And I said, I've always thought this would be a perfect brand for that because I don't really have an element of cooking outside and everybody hanging out, because that's kind of the vibe of Redneck Riviera, is people hanging out, having a good time, listening to music, have a cocktail, you know, grill something outside, and that's the vibe. And I said, I think that's great. Let's see if we can come up with something really good. So we worked on it for 4 or 5 months on this recipe, and I finally said, bingo, that's it. I said, that's better than any barbecue sauce I bought in a grocery store by a long stretch. Let's go. And so we started having phone calls at the end of December, and as of today, I think we just went past the 2,000 store mark. And right now it's all in the Northeast. We haven't even talked to the Southeast yet, much less the Midwest or the West. So people are receiving it very well, and I think it's going to be a successful launch.
And they can order it online too once it's more available.
If you go to redneckriviera.com, go to the little shop button, and it'll show you whiskey, barbecue sauce, boots, whatever. And you go on barbecue sauce, you can have it sent to your house, because it'll be a little while before it's in your local grocery store throughout the U.S., but you can get it early if you want.
So, well, I want to get it early. What's interesting about you is, because I was there for your whiskey launch too. And by the way, I'm not a whiskey drinker. I'm a wine drinker. I like your whiskey.
Well, thank you very much. It's easy. That was one of the things I wanted my whiskey to be. Was, I think the word they use in the industry is approachable.
I'd say drinkable, but okay.
It's approachable, or they'll say, I've seen it. I've seen people review my whiskey and call it sessionable.
Use that word.
It's sessionable. And you know, that's really what I meant for it to be. You know, I've never been a guy that liked the whiskey that bit real hard or burned real bad, or, you know, big nose or anything like that. I like that really easy, smooth, light drinking whiskey like that. And that's what we built. And, you know, you look up and here's 47 states and 11,000 stores and building. And what we're doing with Folds of Honor is incredible. I mean, you know, we've sent hundreds of thousands of dollars to Folds of Honor, and you're talking about a whiskey brand that's 2.5 years old now. I mean, it's a baby brand out there battling out with Jack Daniels and Jim Beam and Crown Royal and everybody else. But I think Americans hear the story about the whiskey that, you know, it's 100% made in the USA all the way down to the glass that it's bottled in. It cost me 70 cents more per bottle to put my whiskey in American glass than it would if I put it in Chinese glass or any other glass from overseas. It's mainly Chinese glass that people use. I use American glass because I think if you're going to say you support American workers and you support America in general and you own a business, you shouldn't be all talk. You should walk the walk. And even if that affects your bottom line, well, so be it. You know, do you really mean what you say? And I really do mean what I say. And so I've made sure my brand holds that line, and I think people are responding very well to that.
And you also are very hands-on. If you taste the barbecue sauce a bunch of times, I forget how many times you said you tasted your whiskey, but it was a whole lot of times.
It was over 100 different blends that we went through before we got finally got the one. And my Granny Rich, God rest her soul, passed away the summer of 2020. But Granny Rich was the final taste tester on the whiskey. And I said, well, if it's smooth enough for Granny, by God, it's smooth enough for America. And on the barbecue sauce, my son Cash, he's a Sweet Baby Ray's nut. So okay. Cash would eat Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce on an ice cream cone if you would let him do it. I mean, he's just, I want Sweet Baby Ray's, Pop-Tarts, Sweet Baby, whatever. And I told the boys at Red Gold, I said, hey, Cash is going to be my final test on this. You know, he's got a blind taste test and pick my barbecue sauce over Sweet Baby's before we really got something great. And ultimately, that's how it worked out. We got him on the fourth try. It's called 1776 barbecue sauce because I say every bite tastes like freedom because it's all sourced from the USA.
Well, I'm obviously going to have to try it now. Obviously. Okay, I want to get to music before I let you go. Earth to God. John, I mean,
Earth to God, yeah.
That came from heaven. Talk to me about why you felt like it was important to write it.
Why I thought it was important for what?
For you to write it.
For me to write it. I think to your comment a couple of seconds ago, I don't even feel like I wrote it. And the day that it was written, I was not intending to write a song. I wasn't in the mindset to write a song. I was actually quite the opposite of that because I'm looking out the window like everybody else. And what I'm seeing out my window is absolute chaos and division and things that are so big and so out of whack that none of us can control it. We have no control. No matter what side of the opinion spectrum you might be on, nobody can fix this. Nobody has any control over it. It felt like it was spiraling out of control. And at that moment, I had this thought, well, what do we have in common anymore? And I thought, well, what we have in common is none of us have control over this. We're all kind of sucked up in this vortex of chaos. And, you know, the only person that really has control over it is the person that's always had control over it. And that's the Son of God, Jesus Christ, the creator of every human being that has ever lived or will ever live. And he's right there just within reach of us if we want to reach out to him. And I thought, you know, the world's gone on for too long not reaching out to him. And I wonder if this is his way of letting us know, you want to see how chaotic things can get if you leave me out of it for long enough? I felt like that was kind of just something he put in my heart. And I went, this thought hit me of like an old World War II veteran sitting behind one of those old CB radios and pushing down on the button and saying, Earth to God, come in, God. Earth to God, come in, God. Like Earth was hailing God, wanting to hear him back. And what does Earth want to hear God say back? This is God, come back, Earth. That would be the very short conversation. And so with that thought, in about 25 minutes, that pencil hit the page and this very simple song, Earth to God, was born. And I didn't really know what to do with it. You know, we're not touring. We're not really doing anything. But I said, well, I'm just going to record it and let people hear it. Last time I checked on YouTube, if you go look up Earth to God, it's approaching 2 million views on that video. It's not being played on country radio. It's pretty much just living in social media and places like that. But to think that millions of people have heard that message and hopefully have gotten some strength and hope from it is a good feeling as a songwriter to know I had a little something to do with that.
In the year that we've had with everything that has happened, you have used your platform to share scripture, to talk about your faith, to be an encourager. Why is that important to you now? Because I don't know that you would have done that 10 years ago. Would you have? No, 10 years ago, I was all about, you know, I wasn't really thinking about other people that much 10 years ago. But I think now I know how I feel. You got to remember, I grew up in a trailer park in Texas and I have a high school diploma. That's it. I mean, I'm nothing fancy. And that's how my brain still works. That's how I think. That's who I am. And I feel like if I'm feeling a certain way really strongly about something I'm seeing going on, there's a real good chance
that tens of millions of people probably feel like the same as I do, but they just don't have a way to put it into words. So I'll think about those feelings sometimes, those thoughts, those subjects. And if I'm right in the moment of that feeling, I've got this little platform in social media, and I'll just pop something out there as encouragement or as, hey, we're all thinking the same way. You're not by yourself. I think one of the biggest, most terrible things that happened with 2020 is a feeling of isolation, that you're by yourself, that, there's nobody to talk to. I can't go hang out with my friends. I cannot, commingle with people, and kind of, that's therapeutic for human beings to be able to hang out with each other. You take that part away, and you take it away for long enough, people feel isolated. They can get depressed. All kinds of bad things can happen. And so in my little corner of the world, to be able to fire off the right song at the right moment, or offer some scripture or some thoughts about a certain subject, I hope it helps. And I know that there's certain people out there I look forward to hearing from and seeing what they have to say. And, that is one positive about tech these days. There's a lot of negative about it, but at least that's one positive thing. We can still connect on that level.
Do you have a message for people? You were honest about how you wanted the election to go. It didn't go the way you wanted, but you've been respectful. What's your message of hope to people who feel discouraged right now by the way things are?
You have to remember that the Lord is in control of this, okay? And I think it's easy to say that when things are going the way you want them to go. You go, well, God's will be done, right? Yeah, because everything's going pretty well. It's an easy thing to say. What about when things are going absolutely opposite of how you would like to see them go? Is he still in control? Well, the answer is yes. And if you go back and read, the stories in the Bible, and there's all kinds of people that came to power. There's all kinds of things that happened on this planet that were really tough and tribulation level things that happened, but he was still in control. And if you read the whole story to the end, it winds back up in a spot with him. That's how this thing winds up. So I think people have to remember that, but I do think it's very important to search out people that you can count on, that are like-minded like you are. And even if you have to talk like we're talking right now, it's still, human beings have to be able to interact. I mean, that is the essence of being a songwriter or a singer, is that a songwriter, even on a deeper level, because you're creating something that creates that energy between people. But there has to be a transference of energy and soul in between people. They have to be able to touch each other. We were not meant to be isolated. Mm-hmm. And I think the isolation that has continued to go on here is so unhealthy for our country. You got to be careful about this virus and all that. But at the same time, there are side effects to isolation that, in my opinion, far outweigh the dangers of this virus. And that's just my opinion now. And I've seen it play out with a lot of musicians. I've seen it play out with family members. I've caught myself feeling certain ways where I went, man, I've never felt like that before. Why do I feel like this right now? And it's because you're isolated, because everything that you normally do is cut off, and all the people you normally do it with are cut off from you. And that's not how we're meant to be. We're meant to be interactive with each other. So just remember, at the end of the day, he's still got it. That song we learned in Vacation Bible School. He's got the whole world in his hands. He got the whole wide world in his hands. Yeah, well, he does. He does have the whole wide world in his hands. And even though things are happening that we don't like and we don't understand and we don't want to see happen, that doesn't change the simple fact that he's still in control. You got to remember that.
Love that. Okay, last question, because I've already kept you too long. Music this year, you, Big and Rich, anything?
There hasn't been anything big and rich happen this year as far as new music, because there's no way to tour and there's no way to get it to the people out there on the road. But I'm just going to tell you straight up, since you're asking, that there are even today I got an email. We had some concerts booked in April. They all just got moved to November of this year. So if you want to know what's going on behind the scenes in the booking world and the concert world, they're moving stuff from spring to fall right now. So, It is brutal, and I don't mean brutal necessarily on me. I don't like it, but I think about these musicians, these bus drivers, light guys, sound guys, our industry in general, all these men and women that get these shows on the road, and then all the fans that want to come out and pick up that energy and have that great time. Man, it's getting pushed off further and further. So we got to find other ways to connect and other ways to energize each other. And that's what I use my platform for. And honestly, that's what my brand stands for too. You know, when you grab that bottle, you're like, I just grabbed a bottle that means something more than just a bottle. Like this bottle stands for stuff, you know, and I feel good that I got it. And it kind of binds us together on commonality. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. Even with people you disagree with, remember, you still have commonality. It's called life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Every American has that. Doesn't matter if they're Democrat, Republican, in the middle. I don't care who you are. If you're in America, you have this right called life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we should root for each other to do well at the end of the day, whether we agree on everything or not.
Perfect. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Glad I get to see you. My husband and I have our 10th anniversary in April, and we always go downtown. So you have my word. I will come to Redneck Riviera and support you.
Awesome. I hope you have fun. Thanks for having me on.